Fellas, Link is hot. But this universal fact leaves me with a question. How do I talk about how attractive he is to me for well over 30 minutes while also framing it as an interesting YouTube video? And that's when I went to the bathroom.
Oh! I made a tier list where I get to scientifically analyze every Link and determine which one is scientifically the most attractive. Is it a perfect nose? Maybe perfect toes. Is it a master sword or just a Kakiri down below? All these questions you never asked and more answered on today's episode of PMJared. Which Link is scientifically the most attractive?
First off, what makes someone scientifically attractive? Everything about them. Your face, your personality, your monetary and social status, your intelligence, the number of copies of Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land you own, and everything in between.
But for now, we're finally ready to begin scientifically evaluating all of our Links. And one bonus rule. We're going to assume the evaluation is taking place 1 to 2 years after their games have concluded. Because most of the time, Link is either 16 or 17 years old. And I'm not sexualizing children here. I would never do that. Do not accuse me of that. Okay?
Physical attractiveness of the face and body is evaluated on these categories generally.
Everything in this video is generally, because attraction is made up in your brain, and every brain makes attraction up differently. And I can prove it, because on the site rule34.xxx, there is 13 results for Beetle.
He also has too large of a facial volume because the Japanese like their oversized eyes.
You see, Japanese art styles tend to give their characters much larger eyes to help them express themselves better in... Fascinating.
He also missed out on 2 points in the hog category because I don't know what to tell you, there's just nothing there. 2 for his ultra hand because I would like to try, and 1 for this. However, for all the Links that we can't measure the Link Maker for, we'll still give him 1 of the 2 available points. Because like every man, if we were to ask him how big it is, he would say average. And trust me, men never lie about their size.
Hey, hang on,
Toon Link has been used in a lot of games, but really only has 2 looks. The main one originating from Wind Waker, and what you look like when you're controlled by the DS stylus.
No, I can't help but realize that there's a D-pad on this console, and this surely isn't the most efficient way to control my character. What the hell just happened?
And facial convexity is just the angle of your whole face. It's a little more complicated than the nasolabial angle, but it's just mostly how far in or out your chin and forehead are. And our Toon's angles here are horrendous, because his head would work as a soccer ball. And for Links, they both do amazing in personality. They have so many unique expressions, truly making them stand out amongst other Links. And Wake Up Link manages to even score above a 10 because... Come on. Have you ever heard a more attractive pickup line? He has some ability to speak, which prohibits most Links from getting above a 10. He does, however, still have a face that would be more fun to kick than kiss, so their final scores of 51 and 49 only get them slept with your birth giver and objectively sexable tier. The last 2 tunes use this low poly model made for the DS, being Fan Me and Spiritual Love. And besides the lower cut collar to help him show off his cleavage, he does pretty bad physically. And Fan Me would have the same problem, but Phantom Hourglass has a weird ending. During the game Phantom Hourglass, you're sailing on the Great Sea from Wind Waker in search of new lands, which you'd think with a planet flooded by gods would just mean new islands. However, they happen to find an entire continent. Never mind the insane plot holes this causes. This would imply that there's some entire other civilization living on this continent, but while there are a couple groups of people there, if you look at the Zelda timeline after Phantom Hourglass, it says a new Hyrule Kingdom is founded. Clearly intended to be on the continent they had found, which means these 4 random people somehow managed to enforce their own rule on the Goron Anuki and Lokomo people, making Tetra Queen and this Link King, and being the King of the Kingdom would give him a full status of 20. Also, these pirates are now canonically noblemen, somehow. And that's not where the interesting stuff ends, because we get to see what this kingdom becomes only a little over a century later, thanks to Spirit Tracks. And you might notice, for this pretty young kingdom, having only started from a handful of people, there's a lot of people around. And while I'm sure some people did immigrate over from the old Hyrule, probably not very many. I mean, it took America a long time for people to really start colonizing it after it was discovered. But this is a fully developed society of people. So if you're not going to physically be able to bring that many people over, how else do you get a bunch of people in your kingdom? Zelda 2 Link, who will codename I'd Adventure to Link Up with Him, does pretty poorly in personality and status. But physically, he does pretty alright. His body in particular is on the upper ends of other Links, partially thanks to his contrapposto posture. This posture is basically just standing with most of your weight on one foot, causing your hips and shoulders to become perpendicular. This is often considered the most attractive way to stand. It's been used in multiple sculptures in history to help people pretend like they're calling these statues beautiful because of the posture and not because of the exposed penis. This guy is ugly. He scores all right for the face and isn't unintelligent, but he has no personality and gained very little fame and status in the game. And he only got 3 points for his body, which is the worst of any Link. It's impressively bad. I honestly expect better of you, small Canadian indie developer Brace Yourself Games. Give me more attractive sprites next time. I mean, you had a Link that was built around dancing. Just imagine the potential if he was hot. Wet Awakening and Aura Cool Guy seems somewhat charismatic, as Wet Awakening seems to have some romantic relationship with Marin, and Aura Cool Guy is potentially with a god. I think. I don't think anyone's played the Oracle games, so I can probably get away with assuming anything about this relationship. But the main area they shine is intelligence, with every single one of them needing to solve some pretty difficult puzzles. Aura Cool in particular has Jabu Jabu's Belly, which is arguably the dumbest and hardest dungeon in the whole series. I think. I'm still pretty confident no one has actually played this game, and these people on the internet are just lying. I mean, they stole the name from an Ocarina of Time dungeon. That feels like a dead giveaway. Since Twilight Princess has numerous difficult puzzles and another contender for the hardest puzzle in the series, with these Guardian statues. The puzzle is that you're controlling both of these statues simultaneously that move in opposite directions when you move, and there's all these ledges you have to get them stuck on and get them in the right position, and Nintendo, I was 8 years old. What do you expect from my tiny little child brain? And those points from intelligence give him an amazing score of 62. Scientifically speaking, anyone would already want to pork this man. However, guys, we have to have a serious discussion. Does this earn him positive or negative bonus points? He can turn into a wolf, and I'm sorry to tell you, this is attractive to some people. And by some, I mean at least 160 million people if the Twilight book sales mean anything. However, this would also weird out a lot of people. So this would likely be seen as a negative to more people than a positive. And most of the science of hotness is based on majority opinion. So this should probably result in negative points. But if he doesn't want you to see him in his wolf form, he never will. You'll only ever be able to actually see this wolf form if he wants you to, because the only thing that triggers it is exposure to Twilight. And if you're in the Twilight with him at any point, you won't be able to see his wolf form because you'll become a helpless spirit. And while he can expose himself to Twilight with this rock, that's his choice, and you'll never see it unless he wants you to. Meaning, bestiality can only be a positive in this situation. So, he earns bonus points. Probably not too many though, only a couple of bonus points, because this is still super weird after all, right? However, there are 2 Links in this game, because this purple bunny man is apparently Link from another dimension. He's supposed to be Link from Lorule, which is Hyrule but with a darker color palette, which you think would make him evil in some way, but he's a really good guy actually. You know, other than his innate capitalistic greed and exploitation of the lower class. You see, when Ravio's entire realm is in danger of being destroyed, he does not see a crisis, but a business opportunity. He travels to Hyrule to find the hero of that world as he needed to in order to save his realm, but instead of just giving him all the tools he'd need to save his entire realm, he created a rental business. Not even selling you the items you need, which would already be bad, he turns it into a full-blown service designed to maximize his profits where you rent items instead of purchasing them. He does let you buy them later, but only after you've spent thousands of rupees filling his bank account. And even when you're finally allowed to purchase them, it's at insane prices. We're talking 1,200 rupees for an ice rod. And the cherry on top is he's able to convince Link that none of this is wrong, and in fact, this service service is so needed, he should run it out of Link's own house, making him a rich, smooth talker with a good face. Now that is a hunk if I've ever seen one. Scientifically speaking, of course. I also gave him a bonus point for the rabbit mask because I like it.
Remember, scamming those around you only makes you more attractive.
All right, who's ready for Dick Link? This is the Legend of Zelda TV series produced by Dick, known for mild misogyny and looking pretty bad. The Link in the show, who we will name Excuse My Blushing, was definitely given an interesting face design. While he does have a good body score, his face doesn't fare nearly as well for an overall mediocre physical score. And he's also just really dumb, to the point where it feels like he's basically ignoring the obvious plans and traps of Ganon.
Pull to kiss Zelda, don't mind if I do. Is this what rape is? Oh my god!
However, he does really well in our other two categories. Despite being really annoying, he can talk, and he does seem to be a generally charismatic guy, because he does get the Princess of Hyrule Kingdom to fall in love with him. He also clearly has high status, somehow having his own room in the castle, despite assumedly just being a regular guard. I don't know what he did to earn this, but it gives him a high status score too, which means scientifically speaking, he is objectively sexable. For this next section, I just want to be clear, I didn't mean for this to happen. Link, the Faces of Evil for the Philips CDI needs no introduction. It features this monstrosity, which is legally a Link, who we will call Can't Deny Its Beauty. And I now somehow have to figure out all of these physical aspects of his face and body, which seem to continue to change from scene to scene. I tried to use the least horrifying faces that weren't constantly moving to determine what he actually looked like, and I figured he deserved a charitable interpretation since he probably wouldn't score well regardless. But those aren't bad scores.
No, I guess he's not the worst looking guy in the world.
I don't know what to say besides, well done, Phillips. This is, scientifically speaking, a model of a man. I at first thought he was getting lucky, and this was probably just gonna keep him out of the bottom tier. Until I started calculating his other scores. You see, his intelligence is actually really high, because like a lot of the other early Zelda games, the puzzles in this game are bullshit. Even though there were well-designed Zelda games out at the time, they still designed it like this, with puzzles without a clear solution, giving him a good intelligence score.
It is a bit of a feat of intelligence to be able to figure you have to bomb that specific rock 20 times. I wouldn't have figured it out.
And he yet again lives in the castle with the king and princess for some unknown reason, despite assumedly just being a regular royal guard, which yet again gives him a good status score.
And with royalty as well.
And nearly every person in this game seems to love Link. It's not perfect, some people treat him poorly, but the ability to talk and be beloved gives him a pretty good intelligence score, meaning his final score is 68. Making him, scientifically speaking, the peak of Link prettiness thus far.
He is the hottest Link. No! No! They are so unbelievably hot. And yet, it's not enough to defeat him. But I have one more trick. One more trick up my pants sleeve. Ah! Young Link.
Yes, Young Link! That's 5 more Links that could save us. I guess 2 of them are Smash, and the terrible intelligent personality score makes it pretty difficult for them to get anywhere. And it's basically the same story for the Hyrule Warriors Link, but these guys are all physically rather pleasing to the eyes, which could bode well for our last 2. Young Link from the N64 games and the 3DS games. The adult versions already scored really well, and these guys are basically the same as the adult versions, but they star in one more game, Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask doesn't enhance their personality score at all, but it does raise their status, as they are now a hero in another realm of Termina. And it raises the intelligence score to the absolute max, because this mirror room must have been an absolute terror back in the day to people who were kids and are now over 30. And these 3 categories bring him all the way to 48 on their own, which means one of these 2 would need a physical score of 26 to beat CDI Link, a nearly impossible score. And while they're beautiful, they only get totals of 19 and 21.
And it's not enough. As much as it pains me to say, I'm out of Links, and no one could beat Can't Deny Its Beauty.
In Majora's Mask, you can get masks that completely transform your body, just like Twilight Princess Link, which was bonus points for him. While I'm not sure anyone will get excited about a rock or a baby tree, there's 2 masks that undoubtedly enhance these Links. Fierce Deity allows him to essentially turn into his more attractive older self, which basically means he can artificially increase his physical score at any time. However, the real big addition comes with the Zora. For one, Zora are generally around 6 feet tall, making him basically perfect male size for humans. And due to their water-based biology, they would be incredibly slick for certain activities, so you could easily play with one for hours without getting sore. They also don't wear clothes, so it'd be incredibly easy to get in the mood. And due to their ability to directly absorb water, they can easily recover from fatigue and could keep going for hours. No other transformation comes close to this level of compatibility.
And if you pull out enough, your Vaporeon will turn white. Why did I say that?
This is undeniably an amazing positive, making him clearly deserving of at least 5 bonus points if we're being conservative. Bringing 3DS Link to 67 and Young Link from the Nintendo 64 games just 1 point above CDI Link, making it undeniable. Young Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask for the Nintendo 64 is the most attractive Link to ever exist.
Whoa, you can't say that.
Why not?
That's a child.
Now remember, we're assuming Link is 18.
That doesn't work here. His name is Young Link, and just looking at him, he can't be older than 12.
You don't know that.
Yes, I do.
No.
Yes, any logical person would be able to come to the conclusion that you've been sexualizing a child for the last few minutes.
Well, age is just a number.
Absolutely not!
Well, there you have it. The definitive list of how scientifically attractive every Link is. And now, for better or for worse, you will know how scientifically attractive every Link is for the rest of your life, somewhere in your subconscious.
Which Link surprised you the most? Be sure to let me know in the comments
Young
below.
Link. Young Link surprised them the most.
Please just let me finish this off.
Okay, fine.
Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end, and I will see you next time.
I'm deleting the footage.
No.
Smash. Smash. Pass. Pass. Smash. Double fist. Chocolate. Penis. Everything ranked in the Switch 2 Direct, but only the cool things. Dragon Drive. Oh my god, they're gonna charge $80 for this. Camera Thing. I cannot wait to show my exposed Winky over Nintendo Switch Online. Silk Song. Only shown for 5 seconds. Holy Silk Song! Hyrule Warriors for a 3rd time. I can't wait to play as Masked Goron Man. Elden Ring. Holy crap, Elden Ring, yeah, from Soft. Dusk Bloods. Holy crap, more from Soft, yeah, Dark Souls, be gamer like Dark Souls. GameCube NSO. Nintendo wasted no time in depicting child abduction. Mario Kart World. Please let us put Luigi in a sundress. These 3 guys. Smash, pass, pass. Kirby Air Riders. Masahiro Sakurai, please have my baby. Deltarune. Huge win for my fellow autists. And number 1, Donkey Kong Bonanza. I just really like Donkey Kong, man. Nintendo has yet again wowed us with unparalleled innovation, coming up with the next big thing in the gaming world. A camera. Is what we said in 1998. And in 2008. And in 2011. And in 2012.
And we're definitely saying it again, because Nintendo's big innovations for the Switch 2 are rats and a camera. And I love cameras. They're great for saving memories, harassment, pausing an entire activity while everyone is having fun to take one singular picture, and... No, not good for that. But Nintendo seems to share my love for cameras. So let's try to understand what's led them to this perfect creative and economic vision on today's episode of PMJared, covering Nintendo's obsession with cameras.
Nintendo's camera obsession started in 1998 with the Game Boy camera. This is the single worst camera in the world.
This one's good for that.
And none of these have anything to do with a camera. Every single time, the game just puts your face somewhere on the screen. But hey, you can do this. Did not edit that in the slightest. That's just what happens when you press the run button in the shoot mode, which isn't like hidden or anything. That's something you would eventually do if you had the camera. I think Nintendo just wanted to kill a couple kids. Exact sales are not known, but this definitely made Nintendo tons of money. And as we all know, money. So they were definitely thinking about cameras after this and just waiting for their next chance to make another one. Cell phones were one of the fastest developing technologies in the early 2000s as they quickly went from a communication device to an everything device. And for Nintendo, this was good news and bad news. The bad news was smartphones were starting to become capable of playing games, which threatened to push Nintendo out of the market. The good news is it became significantly easier to access explicit content.
Oh my god, it's real.
Also, technology significantly advanced for
cameras!
But what actually matters is the innovative gaming possibilities this opens up, like looking around the room and shooting at things.
Immersion!
I didn't check every game, but this basically covers the extent of all DSi games. You always either take a picture and put it in the game, or you look around and PNGs appear all over the screen.
Fuck! Immersion!
Which is amazing! The immersion of watching my body beat people up is unmatched. How could Nintendo possibly top such an innovative and perfect idea?
Wait a minute. Holy shit! 2 cameras!
These multiple circles are so you can shoot highly advanced 3D videos.
What beautiful childhood memories in 3 dimensions, so I can understand and feel what it was like being in a car at 10 years old with nothing to do.
There's also 2 new birds. This bird and the ability to post to the Bird app, which if you did, that means that your 3DS pictures are now a permanent part of the Twitter AI Grok. But the bigger deal is it was arguably a worse camera. I mean, with the 3DS, you can control the camera settings, so I'm sure that someone who knows what they're doing could utilize the 3DS better, but to a guy who still frequently accidentally records his footage sideways, the DSi is a better camera. And with such an amazing camera, video game companies immediately took advantage by making games where you look around the room and shoot at things and take pictures of yourself and put them in the game.
Immersion!
When you buy a 3DS, it comes with this set of AR cards. And when you open the 3DS's AR Games application, you get to see...
Who the fuck are you? Get out of my house, get out of my house.
AR cards were used across a whopping 16 3DS games. How many 3DS games were there? 1,807. Which means AR cards were used in less than 0.01% of games. Wow, developers must have been stupid to utilize this so little. Or... am I the stupid one?
Is there a reason people aren't using these features, like, at all? Maybe they're not as useful to me as they seem. I mean, this is the 3rd camera in a row I've struggled to find interesting uses for. Maybe Nintendo is just wasting their time with these incredible innovations. Wii U camera!
The Wii U has a camera, and the Wii U was a bastion of innovative game design. And the camera was no exception. Used across Nintendo Land, Game & Wario, Zombie U, Wii Party U, Wii Fit U, Tank, Just Dance, and I'm out of examples. They don't even have a game where you look around the room and shoot at things. So it was basically completely useless. And I think it pretty much only exists for Wii U Chat, which is an application that allows you to make video calls over the Wii U. It was 2012, Nintendo. Everyone has access to some sort of phone at this point. Who's gonna use a Wii U to video chat? Are they trying to compete with Skype? I don't get it. They could have put effort into making the gamepad, work well. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about another camera, a non-Nintendo camera, the Xbox Kinect.
Is this our chance? For camera redemption?
After the amazing success that was the Nintendo Wii, Sony and Microsoft knew they had to hop on the success of motion controls. And while Sony was busy making crappy sex toys, Microsoft made a camera. And all of this early success the Kinect had led to absolutely nothing. After its launch, it was never relevant again, not even a single time. While it sold really well at launch, for the rest of its life, across 2 consoles and Windows compatibility, it only sold 17 million more units, which is still more than the Wii U. Nintendo stays on bottom. At this point, it's a tale as old as time. A gaming company releases a special camera as an accessory or a part of their console, and it goes nowhere.
In fact, the tale is so old at this point. I'm going to predict the rest of the Switch 2 camera's lifespan from start to finish.
First off, the camera will be shown off across all pre-release commercials, pushing as an incredible new innovative feature and also hopefully tricking some people into thinking it's necessary for the console. It'll release to lukewarm reviews. The build quality will be complimented, and while plenty of people bought it and had a good time with it in Mario Party Jamboree, nobody sees it being something they're booting up all the time to play. While some great jokes are made around it with the communication feature, it ultimately isn't adopted widely enough to inspire that many people to buy it. And there's enough glitches and problems with the new feature that most people stick to Discord. Within a month of its release, a video will be put on the internet of someone putting it where the sun don't shine. It continues to see minor uses across some Nintendo games over the coming years, but nothing amazing. While some people will beg for it to get its Wii Sports or Nintendo Land moment, it never does. Nintendo never discounts or makes a cheaper version of the camera, but they still put the camera in almost every ad for the console, hoping to continue to trick people into thinking it's a necessary accessory. Nothing notable will happen until about halfway through the console's lifespan, a WarioWare game releases and randomly has the best use for the camera anyone has ever seen. No one will capitalize on this. While developing the next console, Nintendo caves and just allows direct Discord integration for the GameCube too. And the camera fades into obscurity, sitting on video game resale store shelves for $10. It's very easy to be upset. In fact, it feels good to be upset sometimes. In the short term. Listen, I got upset about all of the things everyone else is upset about with the Switch 2. I even made an entire video just to complain about the camera, and it felt good for a bit. But now I'm just sad.
And I don't want to be sad anymore. So today, we're not talking about the price word, the Hall Effect stick drift word, or the will tariffs cause the price to go up even more once they unpause word. Nope, only awesome games on an awesome system. Because on today's episode of PMJared, we're reigniting the hype that Nintendo snuffed out. We're gonna openly be Nintendo betas that get excited about a Kirby game and say, I am excited for the Switch 2. Friendly reminder that because I'm being positive about Nintendo right now, that means I condone everything they've ever done. Which is why I believe Nintendo is entitled to kill all Melee players.
While we're still on the hardware itself, I love the idea of magnetic Joy-Cons. I love playing with just about any objects that enter my hand. And these Joy-Cons will be premium, stupid, fake toys for adults that behave like children. And the mice will allow for more game innovations like Drag and Drive.
Honestly, I don't care about this one too much. It'll probably be fine. But it is a first-party Nintendo thing, so I should probably talk about it a little bit. But honestly, if anything, I'm just concerned about what they're going to price it at.
Which sounds only mildly interesting at first, until you realize that this is the long-awaited return of Mario Kart DS Mission Mode. If you haven't played Mario Kart DS before, it includes a unique and incredible set of missions, giving you tons of unique challenges to engage with. This is the absolute best single-player experience in any Mario Kart game. And they're effectively adding it to Mario Kart World in the free roam mode.
We don't know how expansive the mode is going to be, but if the forbidden number tells us... I didn't even say price, dude! I am so excited for Mario Kart World, and that is just one of the amazing games that they announced in the Direct, including Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Hyrule Warriors, for the third time, with the least interesting premise yet.
I'm sure the game will be fine, but I don't know what interesting stories there are to be told with 4 masked people and Minoru. But what's even more exciting is a practically all-new campaign for Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Technically, all they're really doing is revamping the old levels into new levels, but these levels do seem significantly different, making this to some extent an entirely new Kirby game that we're getting in just a couple months.
And it's all for a low...
Nintendo Switch 2 FAQ. Can the magnet break your finger? No. In Mario Kart World, can the cow commit cannibalism? Yes. Can you still find porn on the eShop? Yes. Does its presence cause money to drain from your bank account? Yes. Is there kissing in Mario Kart World? Not yet. Can the magnet break your penis? No. Do I hope Doug Bowser will get in a mild car accident that he'll survive, but it'll give him chronic neck pain for the rest of his life due to the whiplash as punishment for the $80 games? Yeah, maybe. I went into Mario Kart World with one hope. I want to run over a toad. You can't do this.
I'm sure you can play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Mario Kart World has intensely disappointed me. So instead of simulated vehicular manslaughter, I instead have to imagine it in great detail. Could the Bumblebee impale a Koopa shell? Could the Cloud9 suffocate a Shy Guy? Or could the Rob Hog kill the entire competitive scene of Smash Ultimate? All these questions you never asked and more answered on today's episode of PMJared. Which Mario Kart World kart is the best for vehicular manslaughter?
And with Bowser, these arbitrary lines translate to a speed of 2.6 and a weight of 2.4. And once we disavow all principles of how physics actually work, we can calculate the kinetic energy that our standard kart would be able to create by utilizing the calculation 1/2 times mass times velocity squared to give us 8.112 joules. Mario Joule. Bowser joules. This has no relation to actual joules. All who subscribe to the PMJared channel denounce Isaac Newton. You may notice the rally bike lacks brake lights, meaning this thing is not street legal, leading to the minor chance a cop stops us before we can start turning toads inside out. So we'll subtract 0.1.
So, don't hit people with motorcycles. Hit them with cars, so they die faster.
And finally, for the rally cart, I subtracted another 0.3 because the lights are in a really stupid spot. The lights seem to have been glued on over the grill of the cart. The grill of the car is the car's mouth, which is used for airflow or if you're Pixar, kissing. The Bighorn, the Rallygator, and the Bumblebee are all carts of varying BJ amounts, but they have one thing in common: very intense spikes on the carts for some reason. These would all be very effective for impaling Yoshi's, creating a very satisfying donut hole in his chest. The spikes are of varying effectiveness though, so some will receive more points than others, but they still all receive rather high scores, making them all very effective at the actions we both want so badly to happen. But of course, this thing is made out of a Rob, which you may initially think is just a toy designed to be used with the Nintendo Entertainment System, but that's real life, and that's not canon to video games.
And I can prove that video games are not canon to real life, because whenever I make a character in a video game, they are constantly imagining what it's like to see their naked grandma be penetrated by their grandpa, who is also naked.
Which means all we have to go off of is video game Rob. And while he does appear in Mario Kart DS, we don't learn much, which means it's Smash Bros time. Rob in Smash Bros, more specifically the Subspace Emissary, is in fucking insane. Robs are shown to be able to shoot lasers, missiles, and just in general can hit really damn hard and are near indestructible. And the main Rob, the one that seems to be in the bike, is even stronger. This guy can vaporize things, withstand being engulfed in flames for a couple minutes, and can fly if he's wearing a cloak. And in his most recent incarnation, Ultimate, he's just top tier and unbelievably annoying. He just spins at you and you disappear. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he caused at least one self-ending, which does add to the potential kill count. And if all of this still hasn't convinced you that this cart would be very good at ripping toads limb from limb, I present to you Beefy Rob. That's worth a lot of points, for sure. The cute Scoot you just shouldn't use. I just want to highlight that it has 0 redeeming qualities. It's a bike that is tied for the worst speed and weight stats, already shooting it to the bottom, but I also want to point out that the booster is in the worst spot ever. It's only on one side and is attached to the bike through the tiniest pipe ever. So if any collision affects it in any way, it's just gonna snap. I would just never use this, even to run over a Grandma Yoshi.
This is worthless as a murder weapon. Do better, Nintendo!
The Toon Thumper is also really bad. It's just a bike with bad stats and another poorly placed booster. However, obviously, it's a speaker that you could play any music at all out of, and aside from blasting sick tunes while driving through a Toad school zone, doesn't seem very useful. But there is a very interesting song that exists in the Mario universe on Donkey Kong Country: The Island. In the game Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong Country: The Island is under attack from the Tiki Tak tribe, a tribe of Tikis whose leaders are all designed after instruments and can play songs that hypnotize living things. And playing a song means you could probably play this same song for hypnotism out of the Tune Thumper. So, if you're willing to go to Donkey Kong Country: The Island and record the probably dead Tiki Tak, figure out how the song works, and do all that without getting hypnotized or killed in one of the most dangerous places in the Mario world, then yeah, it's pretty good. The Funky Dory is the best named cart in the game. There isn't much else interesting about it. I just wanted to point that out. It loses a point for the missing wheel, I guess, and I'll give it 0.1 for the fans. Those are probably good for something. All right, the Cloud 9. It's a cloud. What does that even mean? The stats don't matter at all. How is the cart a cloud, and does that completely take away its ability to paralyze a Yoshi for the rest of its life? Well, I guess first we have to understand what a cloud even is in Mario, because it's not the same as real life. So what are they? Like a million different things. They're very commonly used as platforms to stand on across the series, but they're also sometimes not platforms at all and behave like normal clouds. And sometimes they're even more solid than the usual cloud platforms, resembling a brick, but they can also be bouncy platforms, the opposite of bricks, maybe even a mode of transportation, an entire power-up unto itself. They can even be cannons or those are living people, living, breathing people made out of clouds, which maybe they all are alive because they all seem to have faces. So does that mean Cloud Mario is constantly creating life that dies moments later in Galaxy? But there's also plenty of clouds without faces. Are they still alive, or are they an entirely different thing? Also, if they are alive, are Lakitu slavers? They ride in them and assert their own will over them at all times. Are they okay with this? Do they want this? And if gaseous water is alive, are other gases alive? There are living clouds that are other colors. Are they a completely different gas, or am I just being racist? What does it mean when they eat? Do they grow? Is rain them shedding their body parts, or is it piss? What are you? The carpet flyer sure is a carpet. While there's metal on the sides, most of it is whatever material carpet is considered. Cloth or some kind of cotton, maybe? What is carpet? Okay, a lot of wool. Some other synthetic components. Dead bug carcasses. Come. I probably shouldn't do this experiment in my room. Yeah, this just sucks. This wouldn't really be useful in any way. Is that a genie lamp? What the hell? That's insane. You would just have to detach it from the car, then give it a good rubbing, and you could go directly to the star. The Little Dumpy does have a really high BJ stat, so it probably seems great. But this cart is just a bigger version of a plastic toy. And plastic, unsurprisingly, is significantly worse at ending Koopa bloodlines than metal. It'll easily get bent and broken as you're doing this. It's not as bad as plush, but it still warrants at least halving the current score. It does get an additional 0.1 for being protected on all sides, but overall it doesn't seem that powerful. But what if I were to tell you, you're gonna eat this cart someday? Plastic notoriously doesn't biodegrade when left alone. It just persists. And even when it does start to break down in any way, it doesn't become dirt like most things. It becomes a fun little speck called a microplastic. These are little pieces of plastic smaller than 5 millimeters in length that are inside you right now. The reason they're inside you is because you drink water. Now, there's a lot of ways microplastics spread, but one of the more common ways is when plastic litter of some kind ends up in water. And the water over time breaks it down, creating tons of microplastics. And then the water flow whips them around into everything and everywhere, and they end up in all parts of ocean life. And it completely infects whatever body of water it's in, which includes the pipes that funnel the water. While the filtering of the water can get rid of some of it, microplastics can be so small that they get through, and then that water gets in your pipes and into your cup and into your body. What does it mean that they're in your body? Scientists don't really know. So if we dump the Little Dumpy into the sea close to a pipe, it'll start spreading, especially into the pipes and into the residents of the Mushroom Kingdom. It'll fill the Toad's hearts with pieces of plastic. And they won't even know anything is happening, even understand why they're afflicted with various ailments. How bad is it for them ultimately? Who knows? But it's inside them now, and the scientists won't know what to do, and it'll spread and spread. It'll be passed on to their offspring, causing unknowable defects, disabilities, and suffering, an unsolvable problem. They're inside all of you. Every last living thing will have tiny bits inside them that I put there. I put them there. They're in there right now. You get them out. They're out there forever, and they never deep in your blood. You have to drain your blood to get them out. Drain your bloodstream. Drain it now. The Ribbit Reverser is a very standard cart overall. Nothing of significant note, it's pretty average, but just look at it for a second. I know a lot of carts look like they have a face, but this one really has a face. If this thing started talking, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would still be terrified. Is that relevant to the current question? I don't really know. Alright, the Fin Twin is a pretty crappy bike based off of a koi fish. Its stats aren't good, but this is a koi fish in a Japanese game. So if we play our cards right, we could turn this bike into a Gyarados. In Japanese myth, one of the most famous stories is about a group of koi swimming up a river when they come up to a waterfall. While most koi made the decision to turn around, some koi persisted and attempted to climb the waterfall. And despite demons mocking them for even trying, one koi did make it all the way up the waterfall. And upon reaching the top, he was transformed into a dragon. This is the same myth that Magikarp and Gyarados are based on, meaning all we gotta do is get this bike up a waterfall, and we got a Pokemon! And while you may think you can't get a bike up a waterfall, I'd argue 1, you lack determination, and 2, let's take a trip to Cheap Falls. Stupid idiot, it's super easy to get a bike up a waterfall. And now we have a Gyarados. And Pokemon are weapons of mass destruction. We could wash away Koopas by manipulating the water of the ocean. We could summon hurricanes on a singular innocent Shy Guy. Cause the earth itself to quake, leveling the homes of countless innocent mushrooms. And we can erase any evidence a Yoshi ever existed with a single Hyper Beam, warranting adding 30 points to the Fin Twin score, making it the best murder weapon in the Mushroom Kingdom. There is one problem, though. A Gyarados doesn't have brake lights. There you go. An exact and perfect analysis of every single Mario Kart World kart's ability to kill people. Toads. And hey, if you enjoyed your time here with me, why not leave a like?
And now that all of the questions you could possibly have on this topic have been answered, I'll be headed off now. But as always, remember to drain your bloodstream. Drain it now. The microplastics are inside of you. They're deep in there. You'll never get them out without draining it. They're in there. Drain it. Get in there. Get them out. Get them out now.
Every Wario costume ranked by how much his butt turns me on. Oasis, these pants are just too loose and the cloak covers part of the bottom, so there's just nothing really going on here. Work Crew, similarly, these jeans are just too loose. The seam is a little nice to help define the rump, but he just needs tighter jeans, man. The Wicked Wasp, now we're getting somewhere with just a little bit of tight around those cheeks. But it's not quite skin tight, it seems, and it's really hard to see during a race. However, that stinger probably turns someone on. Pirate, nice and tight pants. The jacket isn't ideal. It obscures the booty a bit in some situations, but I do like looking at this. Biker, now those are some tight jeans. When I pull those pants down, the cheeks are gonna bounce like Spring Mario. Pro Racer, look at how much those cheeks are squeezed. It looks like they're trying to escape. Oh, they're so good. Classic overalls, there's a reason they've used these for years. They are perfectly shaped for that ass. Oh my God, you can almost smell it through your screen. And finally, number 1, the Road Ruffian. It may not look that good at first, but look at how close to the crack that is. If we could get him to bend over just right. Oh. This makes no sense. Why is Pauline a child, Nintendo? Sure, there's babies of other characters, but those are clearly established to be a part of prequels or time travel stories. There is just no explanation for why Pauline went from probably one of the oldest members of the main Mario cast besides the immortal goddess to a 13-year-old girl. And why did you choose a character who is present for one of the most pivotal moments for understanding the Mario timeline in the entire series?
When I first saw Kid Pauline in that direct, I almost immediately made this video. But I stopped myself when I realized all Nintendo had to do was say the words time travel or Pauline Jr., and basically all of this would have gone away. But instead of that, they made basically no attempt at elaborating, and in place of any explanation, they made multiple decisions that raise even more questions. And I'm going to attempt to answer all of those questions you probably asked today. Welcome to definitive evidence that every time I've Googled Kid Pauline has been for research purposes. Because I've solved Kid Pauline.
In the official Mario manga, she appears on a single page, in which she just watches Mario get beat up by Donkey Kong and then rejects Mario's love instead, getting together with Donkey Kong.
I'm here to save you, Pauline. I made it to the top.
Ew. What's wrong with your face?
Guys, there's a lot of barrels.
Well, I've been having a blast up here.
Huh?
Don't you just love a man that's tall, dark, and handsome?
But I'm none of those things.
Oh, of course you aren't, silly. I'm talking about him. She was completely confined to this series for years, though. She was kept in complete obscurity until Nintendo realized that people were getting tired of Rosalina. The people needed a new female character for the Mario series to use for, you know.
We know?
You know.
What? Dude, stop, don't be weird.
Another option comes from the main villain of the game, Void Kong. He has an insane variety of magical powers that he uses throughout the game. Maybe one of them could have been used to de-age Pauline. I just don't buy this one. While Void Kong can do literally whatever the plot happens to need him to do, power over age is never established as an ability of his. And there are other instances where he definitely would have used it if he had it.
I also just don't want this to be the case because it would cause irreparable damage to something very near and dear to me. Mario Rule 34.
So clearly, similar to how this Cranky Kong is Donkey Kong III's grandpa, Lady here is Kid Pauline's grandmother. And therefore, it must also be the case that Jumpman here is Mario's grandfather, because otherwise time does not make sense in the slightest.
See? All we gotta do is significantly multiply the number of characters in the series to understand the lore. A century from now, the lore will include 7 Waluigis.
You see, throughout the game, outside of the main banana collectibles, you can also find fossils. They're used as an alternative form of currency, but that doesn't really matter. What actually matters is that they all are unique and have individual descriptions. And beyond implying that Professor Chops might have died,
He can't be gone. He just can't be. Come back. Come back.
how in the Mushroom Kingdom does Lady have a granddaughter that seems to be the same age as, if not older, than Mario?
The only way for this explanation to work is for Lady Pauline to be a GILF.
The only possible explanation, if you really want to stretch this to make it work, is Lady is just really old in this game and has had immaculate plastic surgery to look like this, and already has a daughter and a granddaughter, and is just catfishing Mario, who is 16 in this game, by the way.
Oh, what's that? You didn't know Mario was 16 in the arcade game? He is. Still feeling good about this theory?
I won't go into all the details here. You can watch my Mario timeline video for exactly why. But in order for Mario to be 24 years old, as he is stated to be in the modern games, and have Donkey Kong III be a full-grown adult in the modern games, which we know he must be in order to be the leader of the bunch, or the alpha, at least 8 years need to pass for a gorilla to become an adult. So Donkey Kong Jr. must have reached maturity right after these games and had Donkey Kong III immediately, and 8 years passed to reach the modern day games.
So in order for this explanation to work, you already need to accept that this minimum 40-year-old if you're willing to get a double-team pregnancy involved. So probably 60 to 70-year-old is grooming this 16-year-old despite all evidence entirely to the contrary. And that's the first reason this is dumb. As much sense as it would make for Donkey Kong Bonanza to take place before Mario Odyssey and the rest of the Mario games, there's just no world where that's the case. But maybe it can take place after most Mario games and the grandma theory can still work, right? For the post-game of Donkey Kong Bonanza, you go back to the Elders of the Underground. These large old guys that give you the ability to turn into chimera monstrosities of nature called Bonanzas. And these Elders now give you more difficult missions to complete, and to gain the ability to upgrade your Bonanzas in the least helpful way.
I, the mighty Ostrich Elder, offer you a challenge. If you defeat the hardest level in the game, I will teach you to shit gold. That's not an exaggeration. That is actually the power-up they give you. That you shit gold if you beat the ostrich one. It's not useful like ever.
You eventually get to the final one that all of the elders are together for, and she says she's finally done it. She's come up with the perfect song, and she starts singing a tune. And this could be it. The thing that could confirm where this takes place in the timeline. If she sings, say, Jump Up Superstar, I'd have to throw out all of my criticisms about that theory. Or if she sings something new and original, it could confirm that it takes place after and could be setting up for a future game. So what does she sing? She comes up with the song from the original arcade Donkey Kong?
What the f does that mean? It all makes sense.
It explains everything. You see, Pauline invents the Donkey Kong theme. She performs it at concerts and people attend them as she is a kid and her grandmother is the mayor, so a lot of politicians attend the concerts to get in good with the mayor. However, the concerts are all the same songs as her grandmother sings, and there are also a lot of weird rocks and animals at the concert, so they gain a reputation for being copycat concerts that feel like a zoo. So the attendance slowly starts to dwindle, disheartening Pauline. But when Kid Pauline is inevitably invited to one of the sporting or kart racing events due to her popularity, she discovers the time machines that are used for the babies and decides to send herself back in time. Now she gets to sing all of the songs her grandma sang for the first time, and she becomes the new singing superstar, Lady Pauline. And one day, just as her grandma was, she was kidnapped by an ape. An ape she recognizes as Donkey Kong, and not knowing what to do, she sings a song that she knows Donkey Kong likes, the one that he would one day help her create to try to calm him down. But for some reason, Donkey Kong doesn't respond to this song at all, because he's actually Cranky Kong. So she is saved by her much younger boyfriend at the time, Mario. However, once Mario saves her, he locks Donkey Kong up and abuses him, which is too much for Pauline to see one of her saviors beating up another, and so she leaves Mario. And similar to the ape thing being the same as her grandma, she then runs for mayor, just as her grandma did. She dyed her hair blonde for a very short amount of time, for no reason, just as her grandma did. She parties and races with Mario, just as her grandma did. She even gets kidnapped by Donkey Kong again, just as her grandma did. Except this time, this is the DK she actually knows, and is much better at diffusing the situation now. And most importantly, she even has a kid around the exact same time as her grandma. It's not like she was trying to do any of this, things just kept working out this way. She also realizes she's never crossed paths with or even seen her grandmother at all, which just seems so unlikely as she knows she grew up in New Donk City as well. And then one day, her kid has another kid. She's filled with pride. What a beautiful moment it is. But when she is told the kid's name, she is stunned. We named her Pauline, after you, Mom, since she looks just like you. She goes lightheaded for a moment, as it all hits her at once. The reason she hasn't seen her grandmother, the reason everything seemed to line up so perfectly with her grandma's life, it's because she is her own grandmother. And it just made more and more sense as the kid got older. She was the exact image of her grandmother, and not even a spitting image. They are the exact same. They move the same, they have the same eyes, the same hair, the same ears. And most importantly, they have the same love for music and the same beautiful voice. Pauline has created a time loop, causing her to be her own grandmother. It all makes sense. I have been thinking about this nonstop since Kid Pauline was revealed, and I haven't been satisfied by a single theory I've heard until I came up with this one. Call me crazy, many have before, but I truly think the only way to reconcile all of the inconsistencies is for Pauline to be her own grandmother. It makes sense, and there isn't really any evidence directly against it. And even if there were, does it come close to the evidence against any other theory on the matter? Please, in the comments, challenge this theory, or give your interpretation of this whole thing. As someone who is oddly passionate about the Mario lore, I can't wait to discuss it with you guys down there, or in the new Discord server I've created for the community. And with that, I've been PMJared, answering a question you've probably asked, and I'll see you next time.
Hold on, what's that string in the corner going to?
Oh, it's just more evidence in favor of my theory.
What is it, Jared? Dude.
It's to help illustrate my point.
Video's up. Just throw it away. Like, it's weird, man.
Okay.
Okay. Really?
Everything ranked in the Nintendo Direct, but only the cool things. The Kyoto Marathon. Before a single game announcement happened, they announced they were sponsoring a marathon. This Direct was doomed from the start. Yoshi in the Mysterious Book. I can't decide if that mustache means this book is cool or should never be allowed near a school. Mario Tennis Fever. Baby Waluigi is canon forever now. Pokemon Farming Sim. Please don't draw of the Ditto, I'm begging you. The Super Mario Galaxy movie. Monty Mole. Resident Evil Requiem plus 7 and 8. I am incredibly embarrassed because I only got excited once watching this reveal. I'll let you figure out when. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. I guess they technically did end the Direct on a Smash character reveal. Tomodachi Life. What are those hands? Stop. Dude, that's not cool. New Mega Evolutions. These are actually all really cool. I can't wait to use them to wage war against something that can reshape the Earth. Mario Galaxy. The physical storybook is such a cool idea, and at least one person somewhere in the world will come on it. Samus on a motorcycle. Yeah. And finally, the Virtual Boy. Listen, Nintendo usually isn't that funny. At best, they get a nose exhale, but this is hilarious, man. What a beautiful joke, and just full commitment to the bit from start to finish. This is awesome. Back in August of 2024, I asked the question, which Smash characters have Smash? And this led to me extensively researching every Smash character's junk.
And now I ask, what do you think a guy who finds it entertaining to think about Smash characters' crotches thinks about once he's out of family-friendly ways to say intercourse? That's right, straight stinking. Pure tinkling. Nothing on my mind except pure unadulterated plopping. Which Smash characters have used the bathroom?
Now, we finally get to place a large amount of characters in the has the equipment but does not plop tier. Because in Star Fox, F-Zero, Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, Fatal Fury, and Tekken, there is simply no mention of any type of Porcelain Throne shenanigans. Where does the food in these worlds go after eating it? Who cares, because it doesn't come out of Shulk's butt. However, there is still evidence that they would have the necessary equipment to let out a whiz at the least, as private parts clearly exist in these universes. We know this often through the knowledge that coitus very clearly exists in the universes in the traditional way, or we can just look at Captain Falcon and Shulk Smash 4 models.
An entirely unnecessary addition, and yet an appreciated one. Why doesn't mine why doesn't it do that as much as his? I get them wearing looser pants, but mine is much smaller. Damn it! This leaves us fresh out of easy placements. And if you noticed, there weren't that many. So let's get right into it with the first question you never asked. Does Steve from Minecraft have a booty?
The Legend of Zelda actually contains 3 distinct loos. One in Majora's Mask with a hand in it, one in Skyward Sword with a hand in it, and one in Oracle of Ages with a hand in it. There is not a single example of a toilet in Zelda without a hand in it, actually, which raises plenty of questions, but this does definitively confirm that on some level, toilets exist in Zelda. Except for in Breath of the Wild, because Zelda timeline. The Kid Icarus games have surprisingly little references to dung, even though the characters talk and crack jokes throughout the entirety of Kid Icarus Uprising. The only references I could find are in the game's 23rd chapter. This chapter of the game is about Vor.
My man!
Kirby! Oh my god, Waddle Dee's poop! That's right, in one scene of the anime, Kirby right back at ya, they made the decision to have a Waddle Dee use the can. But that actually doesn't matter very much, since we actually know for a fact that Kirby and Meta Knight don't pop a squat. Kirby and Meta Knight are a part of the same species, and it is confirmed that Kirby is able to eat so much because there is a pocket dimension inside of him. This pocket dimension just sends any excess waste away from Kirby after he's absorbed the nutrients.
Stop fantasizing about having that power, fat guy!
Which means that Kirby, and by extension Meta Knight, just don't need to drop a stone ever. Placing them in doesn't have the equipment doesn't bottom blast. We still don't know what's going on with King Dedede though. Weird ass penguin. But thanks to Hey Pikmin,
I love all 4 Pikmin games. 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 I love all 4 Pikmin games.
and finally our last Pikmin character, the Pikmin. And I ask you, do plants poop? The Inklings. While there really isn't any toilets in any of the Splatoon battle maps or cities, we actually have direct evidence of toilets existing through the Splatfest front roll versus back roll. This Splatfest was run during Splatoon 2. It covered the heated debate of whether the toilet paper roll should have the paper dispensed from the front or behind.
While these debates rage on, I prefer a more centrist, sensible approach. I love all 4 Pikmin games. All 4 Pikmin games. All 4 Pikmin games.
Yoshi is actually kind of simple because fecal matter is just what happens to food after you eat and digest it. And when Yoshi eats, he gives birth.
Stop thinking about it.
Metroid.
Oh. Toilet! Toilet! Oh, God! Oh, there's just toilets this time. Oh.
There are toilets in Metroid Other M. You can't use them though, and you don't see anybody use them, which would put Samus in Toilets Exist here. But are you trying to tell me that thing doesn't We'll talk about Rosalina and the other Mario characters later, but real quick, I have an important question. What even is a Luma? Now, we can't answer that entire question here, but we do need to answer, what does it mean when a Luma eats? This is a hungry Luma, the Lumas who are the most famous for eating. But these aren't the Lumas in Smash, so why do we care about them? Well, they aren't the only Lumas with mouths. Plenty of other Luma have them, most notably Lubba and Luma Lee. While Lubba isn't a totally normal Luma, he clearly isn't a hungry one either, due to his lack of will to consume. But very notably, Luma Lee, who is a completely normal normal Luma has a mouth, which means that Lumas seem to be capable of developing mouths, which would mean they eventually become hungry Lumas, likely as some function of time, as any Luma with a mouth seems to either be larger or wiser in some way. And with Luma Lee, we can tell she must have some number of years spent in Bowser's castle, as she has lost her mind to the point she taught numerous children about self-ceasing. The cage just likely stunted her growth. So we successfully proved that all Lumas eventually eat. That was just step one. So what happens when Lumas do eat? Well, they eat enough and create a galaxy. Oh god, this might be Luma turd. Alright, what does this mean? All we know for a fact is that a hungry Luma eats an insane amount of star bits or coins, then proclaims, "That's it, I'm stuffed, here we go, transform," then becomes a planet. All it tells us is that Lumas do get full and that they transform in a massive violent explosion that kills them. Now you may say it's absurd to even suggest this might be doo-doo. Nothing has ever actually had an ass explosion so bad that they actually explode, and to that I present to you the Demodex mite. This is a microorganism that is on your face right now. Your mom gave them to you when you were born, and you can never get rid of them, and they live in your skin now and will never leave and continue to feed off your skin forever now.
There's bugs on your face.
However, when they eat your skin, they don't pinch a loaf because they don't have an anus. Instead, after about 4 to 6 days, they explode all of the feces out of them all over your face.
Poop on your face. Right now. Get it out. Rip off your skin. Rip off your skin.
Meaning it is perfectly viable for a being to exist in a state like this. The only prerequisite is not having a butthole. And if we take a look at Luma's bottoms, I don't see a butthole. So, by the power vested in me by this bathroom tier list, I hereby declare every single galaxy in the Mario universe is Luma. Shit! Alright, Pikachu's butt. Pokemon was quite doo-doo shy for most of its existence. But in some of the more recent games, a handful of Johns have appeared, such as in Valerie's gym finally confirming that women can unload some timber, and in the land of Kitakami from the Scarlet and Violet Teal Mask DLC. However, this only helps us with one of the Pokemon characters, since only one of them is a human. So, who's ready to talk and think about what is going on with Incineroar's belt? While there are a couple theories around Pokemon dumps, including stuff like Pokemon candies or the mulch item, nothing is really confirmed. So it's difficult to draw any definitive conclusions from these. But we do have 3 direct cases of Pokemon driving out prairie dogs, all of which come from the Pokedex.
I'm a professor. This is normal.
Diglett, Darumaka, and Turtonator all have Pokedex entries that directly mention their leech seeds. Diglett's does directly say that their droppings enrich the soil, giving more credence to the theory that mulch is made from poke poop, but the other 2 just don't really make sense. For Darumaka, the entry describes how Unovans used to use Darumaka's eject to heat themselves. Ew. And for Turtonator, it describes how its droppings are dangerously explosive, and I don't know about you, but that's just a Pokemon attack to me. Maybe it does come out of the back of them, but if a Pokemon just excreted an explosive rock or a flaming rock, I wouldn't bat an eye if someone told me it was just an attack. So honestly, I'm not convinced any of this is drowning a brown snake. Even Diglett's could just be a fertilizing attack of some kind. And even past that, if these are fecal matter, this doesn't really confirm much, since it's only these 3 Pokemon that would have any evidence. You could argue that this makes it likely that other Pokemon do the poo, but there's just too many Pokemon that I just can't be convinced go number 2.
This was much more fun with the first Pokemon.
Are you really going to try to tell me that Klefki can massage the mud vein? Voltorb was created from a Pokeball that does not have a digestive tract of any kind. Would Garbodor clear the pipes, or would it just become a part of him? Nothing can be consistent. There's so many possibilities and questions. Are all fire Pokemons Ordor hot? Surely at least Colossal, right? But why is that never mentioned in his Pokedex entries? Maybe it really is only Darumaka, but why not other fire types? Why not Darmanitan? And if waves can take on the properties of other types, does Golem literally ship bricks? And what about Onix? Surely there can't be a digestive tract there. The rabbit hole is never ending. There is no bottom. Does God!
I keep trying to know, but there's just nothing to know. There's so many questions that I couldn't ever possibly know. And whenever I try to know, I go online and I do research and I keep finding of a Lucario in the mouth of a Gardevoir.
All right, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
The goddamn plumber.
They're plumbers, this should be simple. Surely there's plenty of examples of Mario and Luigi actually doing their job, and we'll have enough evidence to understand what the mushrooms Mario consumes become. There are two. Neither of which are from the games. And only one of them even has a toilet on screen. But we can't really call any Mario media non-canon, so we can still probably learn something from this. Nope, all that is done with it is Mario shoves a dog into it. This dog is never shown getting into the toilet on his own. Mario very clearly shoved the dog into this toilet in between these two shots to try to cover for what happened in the scene, and then proclaims, "Found the problem." Which would be an insane thing to say in this situation in the real world. Unless a dog would fit in the toilet. I mean, look at the pipes in Mario. A dog would fit in one easily. So it seems that for whatever reason, pipes in Mario are just ridiculously oversized. And that makes it likely that some of the pipes Mario goes through are connected to sewer water, which you'd think would be disgusting, but as we can clearly see in the Mario movie, sewer water doesn't seem to have any traces of excrement in it, implying no one uses the toilets. I was almost ready to move on after discovering this and say, oh, I guess people don't use toilets in the Mario universe, but I just had to ask the question, what are the toilets used for instead?
Somebody stop me.
My first thought was maybe storage, but it can't be storage of any kind because it's still very clearly connected to the sewer system thanks to us seeing water come out of the toilet. So my next thought was transportation, and oh my god, Paper Mario games are so stupid. Toilets are just like the rest of Mario pipes. They're avenues for travel, which satisfied my curiosity for a moment, but I just had to ask one more question. What does food become? Just to be safe, I had to make sure there was no other evidence of digestion or what comes after. And after surprisingly little research,
Me. I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my at you.
Please stop this. Please stop this. Oh god.
this is the Great Mighty Pooh from the game Conker's Bad Fur Day. The Great Mighty Pooh lives in Poop Mountain. He is canonically a Mario character.
Take your head and ram it up my butt.
Because Conker's first ever appearance was in Diddy Kong Racing for the N64, meaning he is legally a DK character, which is legally a Mario character that legally said something very close to a slur.
You're like a tickly shitty little tag nut.
Which is hard confirmation that manure exists in the Mario universe. It's just pooled in specific locations. And I just had to ask one more question. How does the scat get here?
It can't be stopped. It can't be stopped.
And if it's clearly not the toilets, what is the only other way that things are moved quickly in the Mario series? The only other thing I can think of is the storks that bring babies all over the world. Stay with me. I have come to the conclusion that the thing that makes the most sense in this universe is that the storks are not just in charge of baby making, but they must also be in charge of all things to do with the things between your legs and your torso. Meaning that the storks must also transport what comes out of the Power Moon. And in order for there to be a consistent supply of stool to allow it to come to life, it must be the case that everyone brings the Browns to the Super Bowl in the Mushroom Kingdom, making our Mario characters, for the most part, likely tinklers.
It's the thing that makes the most sense. Please, chat, find a better explanation for why there's so much of it in one location. Oh shit. I've lost it. 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 And finally, the me's, which are, well, me. If you would like to see the full bowel movement, become a YouTube member today.
And there you have it. Now you know whether or not each Smash character has used the bathroom. And now, for better or for worse, you will carry this information with you for the rest of your life somewhere in your subconscious.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. And hey, if you liked it, why not leave a like? But with that, I've been PMJared, who still has a in his toilet and did not wipe after the shit and has to clean his ass.
About a month ago, I made a video titled Which Smash Characters Have Canonically Pooped, which you should watch before this one. And just as the comments did when I asked about smashing, countless people corrected me in the comments on details I may have missed pertaining to these characters and their dung. And it's clear you guys haven't learned your lesson from last time, because I'm back to talk about stinking, tinkling, and bottom blasting, since you guys want so badly to correct me. But don't worry, I've learned my lesson from last time. I'm prepared to set aside my ego and admit when I'm wrong. But first, here's some things you guys are really dumb for. And finally, for Street Fighter, a lot of people were claiming that in Birdie's stage, this guy is peeing. Guys, if he was peeing, there would be a stream like this. So there really isn't a way for me to show you this without censoring the whole thing, so I'm just gonna have to have really good aim. Oh, fuck. Leading to no change. And now on to the real corrections. The interesting new angles you guys have provided on these characters' butts. I just want to make it clear, this is happening because of you. It is your fault I am talking about poop more. We're going to talk about baby butts later, and it is your fault, not mine. Pikachu's butt! This had to be the most common correction in the comments. Pokemon actually do release their bowels, but not in the traditional manner. They do it through their Pokemon attacks. That's right! Supposedly every time Pokemon are in a battle, they are in a literal pissing contest. This means Pikachu is firing his waste at Team Rocket. Oshawa is coating himself in his own piss here, and Mewtwo is throwing literal balls of shit at Ash. Oh my god, my mind is racing at all of the implications. Is Trick Room a room constructed entirely of excrement? Are Pokemon attracting each other with their droppings? Is Palkia using his own feces to tear literal holes in space? It's a myth, which is disappointing. Yeah, at no point has this been confirmed in any form of Pokemon media or interview. The earliest reference to this idea on the internet is a Reddit post on r/low-stakes conspiracies. And through the power of people continuing to say this as a joke and people eventually hearing this joke so much that they just believe it, this did in fact become a low-stakes conspiracy theory that a lot of people believe. Although a lot of people believed it without thinking too much about it. You know, a lot of early wild Pokemon only know like Tackle and Tail Whip, neither of which actually create any new substance. So all wild Rattatas would be constipated in this world. Sorry, I still can't stop thinking about the implications. Anyway, quite unfortunately, we still don't know how Pokemon excrete to this day. What a shame. No change. Game Freak, please. I just want to know how Chandelure Wario had a couple different corrections in the comments. First off, yes, I'm aware he eats garlic. I don't understand why people keep commenting this. The whole section is built around whether or not the garlic does anything. Second, it was also pointed out that since Wario's wafts have color, that's evidence that Wario must digest because the gases created by the digestion bacteria give it its color. That's just not how farts work. No matter what you eat or how you digest it, a fart will never be visible to the naked eye. And in case you don't believe me, here is my butthole. Samus had a correction for the version of Samus in the suit in particular, which is that since in my Which Smash Characters Have Smashed video, I had to rank Samus and Zero Suit Samus separately based on what she's done in the suit and out of the suit. Since if Smash is going to separate them, we have to separate them as well. And I did consider this. However, I thought about it more, and the idea that there isn't some way for Samus to relieve herself while in the suit is outlandish. Metroid games are hours long, and they're unlike most other games where there's sometimes ambiguity about what's happening in between different points of the game. Of the Metroid games I've played, you are in control of Samus or seeing Samus the entire time, with one exception.
The best one.
But that means that during these games, which have runtimes that reach the mid-teens, there is often no point where Samus takes her suit off. And if you don't know, going 16 hours, if not more, without peeing means you're either not eating or drinking anything, which definitely isn't the case for Samus with how athletic she is, or you're gonna start having complications with your body, which if she was holding her pee for that long consistently, she would not be as athletic as she is. So, in the case that Samus is capable of logging out, the power suit must either have a vaginal latch and or booty latch that Samus uses during the few short sections where we're not looking at her. Or, what would make the most sense is that the power suit itself is on some level a toilet.
So, in the case that Samus is capable of whizzing, it is most likely that the power suit has some mechanism that allows her to tinkle during the games. For the 7 of you that are excited by that, I will not kink shame you, but I wish you the best of luck in ensuring that no one finds out.
No change. You see, we know for a fact that the Pikmin plucked by Olimar in Smash don't perform pick pooping because they are plucked at the start and almost always die. 99% of Pikmin do not make it to the end of the match, and Lumas are the same way. These are all basically just living tools that die over the course of the match for the sake of the main character, which doesn't seem to upset Rosalina or Olimar in the slightest.
So while Smash may have 0 explicitly black characters, there are 2 representatives of the Confederacy.
Mario as a whole had quite a few people bring up the fact that in Yoshi's Island, Baby Mario wears a diaper. And not just Baby Mario, but Baby Luigi and Baby Wario are also seen wearing them. And diapers were sufficient evidence for other characters, so here does it mean the same? Well, here's the thing. These kids were wearing these diapers before they were born. Babies are born through storks in the Mario universe. And the plot of Yoshi's Island is that Baby Mario and Baby Luigi were taken from the stork before they could be properly born. Meaning, this isn't Baby Mario, this is Fetus Mario. And if you didn't know, fetuses can't drop waste. Fetuses aren't spending that time in the womb just filling it with night soil. That would obviously be a problem for the mother and the baby's health. So fetuses don't excrete in any traditional way. So these supposed diapers are pointless. Why are the storks putting diapers on things that can't doo-doo yet? Well, the answer is simple.
Nintendo doesn't want to put naked babies in their games. I know they made $50 amiibos, but they're not that evil.
This is just some cloth that Nintendo had put on Baby Mario for the sake of the age rating. It doesn't even look like a diaper. It's just a white cloth. It's not even that tight around his waist, and while older diapers were made out of cloth, they always had to have some sort of mechanism to keep them tight and held up. What is holding this up? But what about Yoshi's Island? Yes. In that game, Mario starts with his parents, but still has the diaper on. This is true, but this game actually makes the idea that this is just some cloth even more likely. First off, Baby Peach is fully clothed because
Nintendo doesn't want to put naked babies in their games. I know they made $70 Galaxy games, but they're not that evil.
Baby Peach theoretically should also only be wearing a diaper like the rest of the babies, but she isn't because this isn't about baby stool, it's about age ratings. And what about Baby DK? He's a baby, and the Kongs do live in houses like humans that they probably don't want babies to lay a stink pickle in. But Baby DK doesn't wear anything on his lower end. Why?
Nintendo wants to put naked baby monkeys in their games. Does that make them evil? Does the answer change if I tell you there are people who are attracted to Donkey Kong?
Regardless, it's clear this isn't about ensuring the good hygiene of babies by controlling where their feces is allowed to end up. It's about not having CP. Unless it's Donkey Kong. So, in conclusion, the inconsistency of this supposed diaper proves that it is nothing but a cloth to cover up baby wieners, and thus, no change. And finally, Minecraft. Fellas, I've got a sad story to tell you. Shortly after the release of the original pooping video, someone joined my Discord server whose PFP was Nicki Minaj with her ass out for the world to see. It was wild. But this user then sent something even more wild.
What? Piss!
When I was researching Enderman, I had already made the assumption that it could only be number 2, because Endermen are allergic to water. But he's peeing He is mostly water. Is he in excruciating pain right now? What did he drink to create this? Why on God's cubic earth did you pick Enderman, Mojang? You could have picked any other character. There is all the other characters, all the other mobs. Creeper could have been interesting, or even just Steve could have been the one demonstrating this. But instead you did an Enderman, which doesn't make any sense. What? Is he dying? I'm dying. I don't understand. How is he doing this? This just doesn't make sense. Do you understand that your actions have consequences, Mojang?
See, I can admit when I'm wrong when faced with undeniable evidence presented to be by Nicki Minaj's ass. So now we have our fully corrected list, an undeniable categorization of whether or not every Smash character has canonically used the bathroom. And hey, if you liked it, why not leave a like? And if you really liked it, why not give me money by becoming a YouTube member? And just in case you need a little bit more enticement to join that membership and give me your hard-earned money, for the second full bowel movement, become a YouTube member today.
I love Mega Evolution, no matter how much the Pokédex seems to want me to hate it. The Pokemon Company has made the incredibly weird decision to have numerous Pokédex entries state that Mega Evolution is actually incredibly painful for Pokemon.
So today we're going to explore and rank these transformations by exactly how much pain we're putting them in every time we press that Mega Evolve button. Using a combination of Pokédex entries, including new ones from ZA and research, I've been able to figure out exactly how excruciating every single Mega Evolution is for each of its respective Pokemon. And trust me, some of them are way worse than you realize. So without further ado, it's time to give you a combination of a guilt trip and a healthy fear of the people who write Pokédex entries. Because on today's episode of PMJared, we're answering the question no one asked: which Mega Evolution is in the most pain? And finally, you might have noticed this big white space here at the top of the tier list where another tier could go. And the reason the tier wasn't there at the start was because I didn't want this phrase to be up right at the start of the video. This tier is for pain so bad the Pokemon would either straight up die or would Nuzlocke itself.
Gardevoir's Dex entry in Legend ZA states, when it opens the red plate on its chest and unleashes its heart, its strongest psychic power is released. Which tells us a very important thing about Gardevoir's biology. This pink thing that seems to stab through her contains her heart. And during Mega Evolution, this thing opens up, exposing the heart to allow its full psychic power to be unleashed. I'm gonna say that again, but with different words and emphasis. The thing that contains Gardevoir's heart opened up. Gardevoir's heart is exposed to open air. What does that mean? Well, having a heart directly exposed to open air can cause
an air embolism. Exposure to open air can cause air to enter the heart chambers and major blood vessels. Even a small amount of air can travel to the coronary arteries that supply the heart muscle, blocking blood flow and causing a fatal heart attack.
So yeah, that'd be pretty bad. Glalie is another very famous one, since as you can clearly see, its mouth has grown a lot bigger, which besides significantly lowering it on the kissability tier list, our last fire types, Emboar and Houndoom, unfortunately already have a lot of black on them, so we can't tell if they're getting burned. But Emboar actually has a completely separate problem that it shares with Swampert. Both of these Mega Pokemon just aren't built well. They have these massive upper bodies placed on these tiny little stubs. Swampert in particular goes from being very bottom heavy to all of his muscle mass being on the top, which there is absolutely no way these legs can support.
So it's just obvious these two Pokemon cannot support themselves on their own legs. So when they enter these forms, they would most likely break their own legs. So until Game Freak makes them look like this, they will remain in the Pokemon Center tier.
And finally, for our fire types, Houndoom does get new spikes that likely already hurt it, but it gets much worse. While we can't tell it from the outside of Houndoom like we could with the other fire types, Houndoom is burning itself from the inside out. In fact, we know its claws are literally melting from the internal heat it's experiencing, which would already suck, But there's another detail about Houndoom that isn't always brought up when discussing these things, which is that Houndoom's flames aren't normal flames. This Pokemon's flames contain special toxins that make it so when you're burned by a Houndoom, you will feel the pain from being burned until the day you die. Hey, Pokedex writers, why are you creating types of pain that I couldn't possibly fathom in my wildest imagination? But what that means is that the pain Houndoom feels from the heat of Mega Evolution will never, ever go away. Now, there's a caveat. Most things that are poisonous or venomous like Houndoom are on some level resistant to their own toxins. So most likely it's not the full pain that he'd feel for the rest of his life, but honestly, any pain you'd have to feel for the rest of your life would super effectively ruin it. Also, Scolipede is very similar with its own toxins seeping into its body, particularly its brain. And we found another pain I couldn't fathom in my wildest imagination. This one's just mean, honestly, Game Freak. Which would kill most things, but since it's likely somewhat resistant, it would probably only significantly impair its brain function, which would still ruin its life. Sorry, but Corbo is in fact a bad person. Slowbro doesn't change at all. The only thing that actually changes is the shelter on its tail gets a lot bigger and envelops it. But we don't really care about this shelter that isn't even a shelter. We only care about the actual Pokemon. So while we could say this is actually worth it since Slowbro is in no pain, I want you to put yourself in Slowbro's shoes. Imagine your trainer finally gives you a Mega Stone. You naturally get excited. You're about to be the most powerful you've ever been and get an entire new look to boot. But instead of any of that, you just get f***ing vored. Regular Raichu already produces a lot of electricity on its own, to the point that it's capable of knocking out an Indian elephant. Wait, an elephant? In Pokemon? Wouldn't they just say like a Caparaja or Donphan or something like that? Does this mean they're just regular animals in Pokemon? Skarmory barely changes. He becomes gold and gets bigger toes. And listen, it's 2025. We all know that toes are good things. Dragalge gives you cancer now. Sorry, did I jump into it too quick? Well, it's the truth. Dragalge's Pokedex entry states that its toxins cause the regenerative power of cells to run wild, which if you didn't know is what cancer is. However, supposedly Dragalge is the only being that can withstand these toxins, meaning that while he may be giving himself cancer, he's actually chilling, since I guess cancer just isn't deadly to him. But this still leaves Dragalge with many changes that are things you should go to the hospital for, due to the sticks and new hair. Wait, I shouldn't let him in the not the Pokemon Center, not the Pokemon Center. Victory Bell is just so obviously having its life ruined. I know he looks happy, but his body is literally overflowing with acid, so he is actively choking himself to keep it all in. I don't know exactly what's happening to its body, but I do know two things. You shouldn't asphyxiate yourself. I know from experience. Never again. And you shouldn't fill your body with acid. Phalanx, as the best new Mega, is of course practically impossible to rank, since it's 6 Pokemon all undergoing different pain. And we don't get to talk about this Pokemon for that long, because it's all kind of boring and obvious. I love him, but it's just as simple. These 3 will have back pain as they grow, and these 2 are in immense pain from the new parts of their bodies, and this guy is just awesome and having the time of his life. Scrafty changes his clothes. Who doesn't love a new outfit? For Alakazam, something immediately jumps out as something that would likely be painful, as Mega Alakazam is stated to have lost all of its muscle mass. But I'm not going to spend any extra time on this because Alakazam goes through something that would be worse than any pain. Alakazam's Dex entry in Moon states, its hidden psychic power has been unleashed. A glance of someone gives it knowledge of the course of that person's life from birth to death. Just imagine that for a second. You look at anybody and you see in your mind the moment they die. And that means anybody. So if you see your parents or your significant other out of the corner of your eye, you see them on their deathbed. Could you imagine the mental stress of having knowledge of the deaths of every single person and loved one around you? What the actual fuck, Pokedex writers? Electros initially looks like it might be in a lot of pain, since he practically splits into 3. But these extra, sleeves? Holes? Are actually not made out of skin and bone. They are made out of Electros's mucus. Gross, yes, but also where is all that mucus coming from? Well, you actually have way more mucus in you than you realize. Mucus lines basically any part of you that needs to be moist for some reason, or is at a significant risk for bacteria exposure. So, for example, your eyes have a thin layer of mucus on them to keep them moist, and also your lungs are lined with mucus to help deal with the bacteria you breathe in. And Electros clearly seems to similarly be filled with mucus, likely for the same reasons. But there is just no way expelling this much mucus is good for you. There is not this much mucus inside of anything. While there are some animals that do use their mucus as a defense mechanism, and they do produce a lot of it, none of them are creating the amounts that over double their own mass. Especially not in a moment as brief as a Mega Evolution transformation. So, Electros needs to be getting this mucus from the already existing mucus in its body. And to get even close to this much, it needs to be getting it from borderline every corner of its own body, leaving its body almost completely deprived of mucus. Which would not only make its eyes really dry, which would suck, but its immune system just lost one of its most vital pieces. Without mucus, you're immediately exposed to all kinds of bacteria that mucus is designed to deal with. So now that bacteria can just freely flow throughout its body. And this is the Pokemon world. It's probably even worse than we can imagine. With all the poison types running around, there's probably diseases beyond our wildest dreams in the era of the Pokemon world. There is literally entire Pokemon made out of poisonous gases. Who knows what kind of things these guys are creating? But since we can't definitively prove this would kill it, we're gonna leave it in the would super effectively ruin your life tier. Hawlucha actually changes very little. All that really changes is its feather color and supposedly its muscles grow. Sudden muscle growth may have some complications, so maybe it warrants some pain, but honestly, I think it's all worth it for one reason. This feather represents penis. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure it penis. Why else would they extend this specific feather unless penis? Lopunny changes very little. However, I am now more attracted to it. Metagross seems like it would be in a lot of pain when it transforms with all its new limbs. But actually, all Mega Metagross is one Metagross, one Metang, and two Beldum all coming together to form this. Don't ask me how it works, that's just what the deck says. So, all of Metagross changes actually check out just fine. The problem is, in Ultra Moon, its deck's entry states, when it knows it can't win, it digs the claws on its legs into its opponents and starts the countdown to a big explosion. Aw, crap! Metagross just got hit with a super effective move. I better swap him out or else he's in big trouble. No, stop, that's a kid! So, if you misplay one battle with your Mega Metagross, it'll end itself. And since we're playing by realistic rules, that's just a dead Pokemon. Chandelure now has a literal portal to the afterlife in its eye, which is probably annoying to hear the sounds of dead people during a fight, but what I'm more interested in is this fixture at the bottom. Now, this was already undoubtedly painful to form. However, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. Where do you think Chandelure's genitalia are? We know that Chandelure can reproduce, so it must have them, and I'm just going to take an educated guess and say it's right here. And don't worry, I checked. The Rule 34 artists do agree with me. Amazing. This is it. This is why I make YouTube videos. So this lower fixture is Chandelure's either wee-wee or hoo-ha being broken apart and stretched out in every which way. That's a life ruined if I've ever seen it. You may have noticed that Delphox wasn't with the rest of the fire types. Well, that's because this Pokemon actually has a completely different and much worse problem than the rest of the fire types. You see, her favorite stick breaks into 3. Steelix and Diancie go through a very similar thing when they Mega Evolve. During their transition into Mega Evolution, they form diamonds. Do you have any idea how diamonds are formed? Well, if you don't, you're about to find out just how f***ed Diance's boulder booty is. So, diamonds are formed through two things. First, heat, but mostly pressure. And before I tell you how much pressure it takes to form diamonds, I just want you to have a good idea of what a lot of pressure is. Pressure is measured in pounds per square inch, or PSI, which just means for every square inch of material that is under the pressure, it is experiencing that many pounds of force. Now, the most famous way to experience pressure is water pressure, since as you go deeper underwater, you experience more pressure from all the water above you pushing down onto you. That's why your ears feel weird when you're at the bottom of a deep pool. So, the deeper you are underwater, the more pressure you feel, with the most extreme example of this being at the bottom of our own ocean. At 11,000 feet below the surface, you would experience about 16,000 PSI rounding up. This is a pressure so great, most submarines are crushed long before they get even close to this depth. And especially any air-breathing organism would be crushed in an instant if it was exposed to this. And now I would like to circle back to our initial question. What is required to create diamonds? 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit and 825,000 PSI. That's an amount of pressure that should destroy both of these Pokemon easily. It doesn't matter that Diancie is a mythical, there is no way she could stand this amount of force without dying. The games are just lying to you. These two Pokemon should explode into a million pieces every time they Mega Evolve. Game Freak, you are actually evil for creating these creatures that experience the most intense physical anguish when a 10-year-old presses R3. What is wrong with you? What in the f*** is wrong with you? And there you have it. An exact definitive ranking on exactly how much pain every Mega Evolved Pokemon is in. And now, every time you press that Mega Evolution button, you will know somewhere in the back of your mind just how much your Pokemon is suffering. And hey, if you liked it, why not leave a like? Or if you really liked it, you could consider becoming a YouTube member for some fun, exclusive perks. And don't forget to check out the Pokedoku. I literally play it every day, and I am so excited to be allowed to make a puzzle for it. And I would love it if you started playing it too. But with that, I'll be leaving now, and finally taking some time to enjoy my new outfit. Mwah. Sometimes, when we all look at certain things, we feel feelings we're not certain we should feel. And nowhere does that seem to happen to people more than the highest grossing media franchise to ever exist. Pokemon. We've all looked at Lopunny, Gardevoir, Salazzle before and had a moment of and wondered what that meant about us mentally. Well, wonder no more, because I'm here to exactly diagnose what that means for your brain. Because on today's episode of PMJared, we're answering the question no one wanted to ask: which Pokemon should you be attracted to? Disclaimer, I am not kink shaming, I am merely kink analyzing. Be attracted to whatever you want as long as you don't actually hanky-panky a bunny. Anyway, let's talk about how badly I want to hanky-panky this bunny. Now, it is assumedly covered in fur. We technically don't know if this is fur, but we'll assume the rabbit Pokemon is furry, and being completely covered in hair generally isn't that attractive, but can we get a visual on that behind again? Yeah, it's weird if you're not attracted to this. Next up, we'll put Buzzwole and Pheromosa in. It's normal to be turned on by this. These Pokemon are human-shaped, and even have aspects that are considered traditionally attractive, being Buzzwole's muscles and Pheromosa's seductive eyes and long hair. Which makes me just as hot as this Pokemon. However, each of these Pokemon have a drawback that is significant enough that it would turn off a lot of people. Buzzwole has 4 legs, something you probably didn't notice because your eyes never got that low, and Pheromosa has these antennae, as well as having uncomfortably thin limbs. Meaning, while they have some things that may turn some people away, it is normal to be turned on by this. Next up, we'll place Weepinbell in the a little niche tier. You know, not everyone would want to, but to a subset of people, this is a functional whole. And finally, we're gonna put all the baby Pokemon in the go to jail tier, because they are baby Pokemon. For those of you who don't know, this is a disgusting thing to be attracted to be honest. And while I was writing this part of the script, I got curious and wanted to check if the 34th rule applied to all the baby Pokemon. And it does. And after that, I decided to really check and try to find a Pokemon that would be an exception to Rule 34. The idea that if something exists on the internet, there is porn of it. And I mean, there's over 1,000. Surely they missed one.
Let's try Vav. It's empty. Zero. Zero. A safe one.
And I found one Pokemon. Varoom does not have any Rule 34. And listen, artist, I'll never ask you for anything ever again. Just leave him alone. I don't even care for him that much as a Pokemon, but please, just let one be clean. Please. Anyway, now that we've established our tiers, set rigid parameters, and thoroughly admonished trust me, you gotta cover all your bases when you're named Jared, we can finally move on to the bulk of the tier list without any fear of accidental Epsteining. Starting with Octillery.
Dude. Just wait, there is genuinely an interesting question here. Are tentacles furry? For those of you who have lived more normal lives, there is a fetish that exists that causes you to be attracted to tentacle lovemaking.
You don't have to Google this. It's okay to just not know about certain things.
Ditto. Is there a debate here? Ditto is confirmed to be capable of turning into anything at all, including people.
All right, Ditto. Use Transform! Transform!
Gardevoir is a very obviously popular one. They literally made a Pokemon that is as close to a woman wearing a dress as they could get away with. And since dresses are often considered beautiful, this should be enough to elevate it to top tier, as long as it's human-shaped. And it's just about perfectly human-shaped, except there's one problem. We can't confirm its legs are attached properly. The Pokemon Company wants to have an E for everyone rating, so they very deliberately keep the inside of the dress very obscured. So there hasn't been an example of being able to see the inside of the dress until very recently. Pokemon kept free cam from us for as long as possible. But now they can't stop me with the ability to both freely control the cam and have a Pokemon out on the field at any time. We can finally harass Gardevoir in a way that would result in a criminal record. But fortunately, there is no laws against the Pokemon Batman. So
I know it's a line of code, but it still felt wrong.
Blaziken does meet the standard for human. You could argue that his weird feather vest or whatever this thing is... What is this thing? I've never looked at Blaziken this much. What is happening here? He actually looks like he's wearing a children's vest that he couldn't button up all the way. Nihilego does have legs. I think in a decent spot, and very debatably arms at the top of the torso, if you count these as arms. And this is a torso. But it completely fails the head requirements. There is just no way to define a clearly separated head on this thing, unless we shove a 40-year-old woman inside it. This is Mother Beast, the end result of chronic child neglect. During the climax of Pokemon Sun and Moon, the main villain, Luzamine, fuses herself with Nihilego in order to get the maximum possible high off of Nihilego's neurotoxins, because, for some reason...
This Pokemon canonically drugs people with its bodily fluid.
However, we don't have time to talk about the implications of the Pokemon Company drugging a woman into subservience. We are only here to ask the question, does putting a beautiful woman inside a Pokemon make the Pokemon beautiful? I think we can all agree Luzamine herself belongs in the top tier without question. But should that drag Nihilego all the way up to top tier, since any Nihilego could theoretically do this with anybody? You could argue this is a Ditto clause, since it theoretically could be anyone. However, unlike Ditto, it can't just turn into the person. You have to actually get a real person in there, which would mean you would still have to woo a mate in this case, which is hard. You could use the neurotoxins to help persuade someone, but you know, ethics and all, so we won't do that. So it would be difficult to get this Pokemon into a state where it is attractive. But hey, if you're willing to woo an attractive person, then convince them to fuse their body with an oversized jellyfish that is going to inject them with neurotoxins that will warp their brain to do the jellyfish's bidding, then yeah, it could be pretty hot. Sarina is one that seems very cut and dry. It seems human-shaped, has long flowing hair, and has very large hips, both commonly attractive qualities in women. However, unfortunately, this Pokemon is actually not human-shaped. I know it's hard, but ignore the hips for just a second and look just above them. Mega Halucha has a dick feather. Cast form. Who the fuck designed this Pokemon? Its face is fine. It's cute even. But why does it have boob/balls/frontal butt cheeks? I feel like it's completely impossible that just every single person who saw this during the development of Gen 3 just didn't notice what this looks like. Hell, you're given one for free during the events of the game, which means countless playtesters saw this and not a single person pointed out that this Pokemon has milkers. This doesn't even make sense with what it's based on. Castform is based on Teru Teru Bozu, which is a Japanese doll that is hung outside and is meant to bring good weather. And they notably don't have balls! If Castform just had this ghost-esque cloak beneath it, the design would be so much better. The Rainy and Sunny form already kind of have it. I bet this Pokemon would be quite loved if it had this instead of titties. But regardless, yeah, nice rack. Sigilith. Why are we talking about this Pokemon? It has literally nothing going for it. It's the weirdest amalgamation of random parts I've ever seen.
Yeah, smash.
Are you ready to learn whether or not you should be attracted to the one, the only, Charizard? You should not be attracted to Charizard. Sorry to the concerningly high amount of you who draw and look at Charizard on the internet. But his legs are unfortunately in an improper place, extruding from the side of his torso instead of the bottom. So, in most cases, this is too weird to be considered traditionally attractive. However, there is an exception, because in Pokken Tournament, why he kind of fit.
Whose idea was it to make Charizard slightly muscular one time?
He's still a bit chubby, as Charizard always is, but that chest and his arms are slightly muscular. I mean, it's not much, but this is a build that is attractive to some people, which I think boosts Charizard from furry to a little niche. Wishy-Washy realistically shouldn't qualify for anything. There is nothing attractive about this. However, when Wishy-Washy enters school form, it goes from a Pokemon to a couple hundred Pokemon. So we have to ask the question, is it normal to be attracted to hundreds of people? I know there's polyamorous couples, which are couples who do feel love for multiple people. However, for Wishy-Washy, I'm mostly asking, is there an upper limit? You know, instead of a polycule, can we get a true polyclan? Mormonism, or the LDS Church, is a religion formed by Joseph Smith in the 1800s. This church was formed from a Christian foundation. However, there would be a few major departures that would land the religion in many controversies, particularly in its early years. And perhaps the most well-known of these is the practice of one man taking multiple wives, or polygamy. Joseph Smith taught that the higher-ranking members of the church should take multiple wives, because God told them to. So Joseph Smith and a handful of other men started to have multiple wives. And while most would only take 1, 2, or 3 extra wives, Joseph took at least 30, with some sources claiming he had over 40 and likely more that we don't know about.
Bro, how would you even handle that? At some point, I'd start struggling to remember all 40 names, 40 anniversaries, 40 birthdays, 40 clothing sizes, 40 needs, wants, and opinions that you all have to keep track of if you want to be a good husband. Could you imagine being asked if you'd still love them if they were a worm 40 times? I mean, at that point, bitch, I have 39 backups. You're fish bait.
But regardless, how did people react to Joseph Smith having all of these wives? They shot and killed him. Well, they put him in prison and then stormed the prison, shot him, then he fell out of a second-story window while attempting to flee and then died, but regardless, they didn't like it much. Polygamy wasn't the only factor that caused these men to shoot him, but it was an important part, so our old friend Wishy-Washy isn't looking too hot. But hey, maybe that was just a product of the time. Maybe today he'd be more accepted for wanting this. Well, fortunately, we have a way to tell, as while polygamy is no longer practiced in the regular LDS church, there's a special spin-off church from the regular LDS church, which thinks that the whole polygamy thing that got the founder killed and single-handedly prevented Utah from becoming an official state is definitely still a good thing, and we should definitely still practice it. The fundamentalist LDS church is currently run by Warren Jeffs, and he has 78 wives.
78 wives? I'd never need to buy fish bait again.
And he's doing this in the modern day. So is he more accepted? She was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list and was eventually caught and sentenced to prison for life in 2011.
Sorry, Wishy-Washy, but it seems that having that many lovers results in a power dynamic that is not only unethical, but is also often only taken by those who want to take advantage of the power dynamic, leading to the suffering of many of those involved and even crimes against them.
Licky tongue.
Girls love it when you use your tongue. Make sure you lick them up really good. Per my uncle one time. I was 9 when he said this to me.
The genies, or the forces of nature. I've never heard them called that before. That doesn't even make sense. What force of nature does Enamorus represent? Horniness? I mean, this feels identical to a human, but we can't just get rid of our legs claws, or we'd have to start saying we'd tap birds. I mean, we can't confirm they don't have legs. They could just be sitting crisscross applesauce in that cloud. But if we just start making assumptions like that, what's stopping us from thinking that Pillowswine has breasts bigger than mine and shooting him to the top tier? So I don't think we can just assume that there's legs here. But I feel like it'd be a slight problem if I said that because these essentially completely normal humans are missing limbs, they aren't attractive. Since I think a fair interpretation of me saying that sentence is,
I think the disabled are undeserving of love.
and I'm unwilling to say that. However, I want to present an interesting thought I had. This is something I have thought deeply about, what it means for this Pokemon and human attraction as a whole. So I will now tell you this thought-provoking proverb, which I will leave to you to decide what it means for you. Get yourself a girl who give you that crazy Hitmontop. Arceus is an interesting one. He's the god of the Pokemon world. Should you be attracted to a god?
Listen, let me tell you, as someone who grew up in very Mormon Utah, people f***ing love God.
People talk about their relationship with God all the time. They'll call him perfect and caring and beautiful before they themselves proclaim how much they love him. And if you tell these people that you don't love God, I bet they give you a pretty weird look. So yeah, God is hot. Diglett, I got one question. Does a Diglett dildo exist?
Diglett dildo. Images. Huh. Nothing for Diglett, but yes, Wiglet.
Yamper may feel quite out of place in this video. However, Yamper does have an interesting aspect of his appearance. He is wearing a collar. And according to Google AI, a collar is sexual. So this is normal tier, actually. Typhlosion is one that I want to analyze for a very specific reason. He doesn't seem to have any particularly attractive qualities, he lacks the proper head and leg separation to meet our human standards, and lacks any features that could reasonably turn someone on. However, as some of you likely know, a little over a year ago, there was a massive Pokemon data breach. Tons of concept art, source code, and internal documents were released onto the internet for everyone to see. And there was one particular internal document that stood out amongst the rest. It appeared to be a brief Pokemon story written by someone within Game Freak. There was no information to tell us who, when, where, or why it was written. All we know is what was written. And to summarize the story, it follows a little girl who gets lost in the woods and the sun is starting to set. However, she comes across a man who offers to bring her to the local cave he's living in to shield her from the night, and he'll help her get home in the morning. However, he manipulates this girl and even drugs her using some berries, so she stays until the next sunset, so she can't go home. This man proceeds to manipulate this girl into forgetting about wanting to go home, therefore forcing her into staying with him for a very extended period of time. Long enough that this little girl and this adult man have a kid together.
Game Freak has internal documents that contain written depictions of pedophilia.
And you know what the worst part is? Completely randomly, right in the middle of the story, we get this line. Eventually, the girl realized the man was a Typhlosion. What the f***?
Game Freak has internal documents that contain written depictions of Pokemon pedophilia.
This story has become quite well known across the internet since, as you'd expect, people took notice when it was discovered that
Game Freak has internal documents that contain written depictions of Pokemon pedophilia.
And can you imagine being the employee who wrote this? Having your deepest, darkest thoughts about a Pokemon exposed for the world to see?
Hey man, what you writing?
Hey. Especially when you realize that only you got exposed, when you weren't the only one to create these stories. In fact, while the Typhlosion was the only one that became widely known, there are at least 7 other stories written in the same vein as this one. Some of them are only a little weird, like one about a Wurmple and Burmy falling in love, or one about women turning into Tauros. But the rest are all about humans and Pokemon getting freaky. There are 2 that depict it consensually with Octillery and Lapras, but in both of these cases, the Pokemon successfully have a child with the human. There's one that depicts a man threatening to kill a Rapidash unless it becomes his wife, one that depicts a Slacking being told no by a woman, which he ignores and forces the woman to have his child. And finally, one where a Piloswine does the exact same thing as the Typhlosion. There's a few minor differences, but Piloswine does basically the same thing.
Game Freak has several internal documents that depict Pokemon and Pokemon not asking for consent.
Honestly, learning about all of that left a bad taste in my mouth. You know, as fun as it is to joke about this, unfortunately, it's all still a little weird, since these are all technically animals that don't speak and therefore cannot consent to anything. So, while we may feel certain feelings towards these Pokemon, and can feel these feelings without any real consequences, in real life, you would not be able to hanky-panky the bunny.
Which kind of puts a damper on the whole video to say that in real life, you wouldn't be able to hanky-panky any Pokemon at all. However,
Yeah, that's right.
as you all are probably aware, there is a handful of Pokemon that are capable of speech, and therefore could consent. So I've got to tell you about some Pokemon that you absolutely could hanky-panky. You just take care of the singing. I'll do the hard part.
Let's get it on.
These are the Pokemon who can consent. Love them all day long, 100%. Lucario, Cacta, Ledian, Carbink, Reshiram, Kartana, Keldeo, Manaphy, Slowking, Virizion, Darkrai, Gastly, Dora, Terrakion, Xerneas, Deity. Gotta f*** them all. I've searched across the land, looked far and wide. This group is the band that you can have inside. Doduo, Lugia, Tapu Koko, Rotom, Marowak, Zygarde, Genesect, Yamask, Mimikyu, Smeargle, Hoopa, Calyrex, Murkrow, Ninetales, Jirachi, Arceus. Fuck 'em, gotta f*** 'em all. Gotta f*** 'em all. Mewtwo, Entei, Meowth, Lapras, Deoxys, Latios, Canyon, Zekrom, Kyurem, Zoroark, Shaman, Zaru, Gabalion, Ralts, Sarangaroo, Naganadel.
Gotta f*** them all, gotta f*** them all.
Yeah.
Gotta f*** them all, gotta f*** them all.
Yeah.
Gotta f*** them all, Pokemon. Ow! Those are them. The Pokemon who can consent, and therefore you can. And not only that, I would encourage you smash them. And hey, if you ever think again about having beautiful sex with any other Pokemon other than the ones I just talked about, you are a disgusting degenerate. Go jerk it to Team Rocket's Meowth like a perfectly normal functioning member of society. Subscribe or become a YouTube member today.
Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the best of. I really appreciate it. I know I hate that I'm doing the cheesy thing that all the YouTubers do where they really appreciate their fans, but I can't help myself. If you are the type of person who likes watching my videos so much they'd watch a 2-hour compilation of them, I really can't express how amazing that is to me. I am really, really grateful for you. I love doing YouTube, and people like you enable it. 2025 was probably the worst year of my life. Just nothing went my way this year. And without YouTube, I don't know how I would have gotten through it. I really, really appreciate all of you who watch me and make it possible for me to do this even part-time. This is like, it's not my full job, but this is an important part of my income now, and I get to do it as an important part of my income, and I love that. And I really, really appreciate all of you who make that possible. I wish there was another way to express it other than the normal cheesy YouTuber way, but I can't say it enough. This is so magical to me. It's so magical. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you're ready for and you enjoy what's coming in 2026.